Johnson is in the building. And he's a Leaf fan, baby. What's up, Toronto?
What's up, people on the YouTube? What's up, my friends? Welcome to another edition of the XFL Weekend Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, your spring football media guru. We just saw The Rock on his tour in Toronto, stopping up Toronto for the Toronto Maple Leafs game. We'll get into that story in a little bit, but big news this out of the XFL this week is the official word from the XFL and the IFL partnership. So we have IFL Pirates co-owner Jawad Yatim on the program to talk about the partnership. There's some interesting things he brings up in the interview. So we've got that up for you, always trying to stay ahead of the curve, kind of, seeing what's going on behind the scenes as we wait until the XFL kickoff in 2023. So if you like football, then like and subscribe to this channel, which gets 60 likes. Hit that notification bell to get alerted every time we go live and when we post new content like today's show. We also have the question of the week because of the whole IFL thing is who do you think, who's your team? Who's your IFL team? I'm curious to hear your responses to that. Plus, we still have no name. We have your social media. We have no names this week. I believe that because of the Black Adam promotion stuff, which my wife and I are planning to go and see Black Adam when it comes out in a couple days. Between that and then the World Series, then the NBA season starts. My new guess for XFL team names and logos, November 8th, 9th, and 10th, a week before the draft. That is my guess because the World Series doesn't even end until November 5th. So I think maybe between the World Series and then the ending of the World Series and the draft, the XFL might drop those team names and logos. That would be the latest, I would think. But I don't see it anytime happening this week. And maybe next week we get a tease. Who knows? But you can thank Hurricane Ian for that. You know what I also want to thank? For you, for being part of the show. That's called the segue. Email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts or record an MP3 or video on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show. Leave a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. We appreciate hearing from the fans out there, your point of view of anything you're going to want to talk about. If you're listening to the audio version of the show, we're on Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll appreciate that. Helps spread the word about the show. And we're live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. The timeline for the XFL is an interesting one. It is an interesting one because next week is the Specialist Showcase taking place. I believe it's in California, if I'm not too, I think that's when it's coming. November 16th and 17th is the XFL Draft. We've heard about that. There's more details. We're starting to hear us a little bit more things about that, but we still don't know when, where, who knows what. We still have team names and logos. January 9th, 2023, the XFL training camp begins. February 18th, 2023, the XFL season begins. So we are 123 days from XFL kickoff. And, we haven't got team names and logos. We haven't heard anything about season tickets and how that's all going to work. What we have seen is there's plenty of hiring going on still with the XFL. And what I'm seeing personally is now a lot of the PR people from the different teams are starting to touch base with the different teams. So that's been good. There's social media presence. We've seen more tweets. We'll get into some of those later on in the show. We've seen those more these weeks. So things are moving behind the scenes. I think it's going to be a quick hit as we get from team names, logos, season tickets. I think everything is going to be in one big batch to get into the draft. And then we're going to go marching right into the XFL season. Why they didn't do it, we'll have to find out that later. You got to think The Rock, this is basically the most important movie he's ever done, as what he said. And, And I think this potentially, the DC universe kind of getting The Rock involved with that versus Marvel. I think personally for me, I'm getting a little tired of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's just too much of it. So I'm curious to see how Black Adam does in the box office, which could lead to a lot of other movies. So this clearly is something that will I think XFL fans are annoyed that we have no team names and logos, but just from a business perspective, I have a feeling the DC universe, um, getting people hyped about that, will probably make more money than the XFL will. Just ask Disney and Marvel how that's worked out for them. That's just my guess. And so you want him to be behind that promotional machine. He's traveling around the world. We got him talking with Larry Tanenbaum, which was kind of an interesting thing, the MLSE owner of the Toronto Argonauts, and somebody who really wanted to bring in the XFL. I got my take on that. I thought it was interesting. And again, everything that we post on XFL News Hub, if I think it's interesting, we are all about the super fans. So we think that the super fans would want to know. So we're just kind of reporting on what's out there. So we've got the news. Then we get in our interview with the IFL Pirates owner, which I think you'll enjoy. They drop some couple interesting nuggets, even including a XFL, their first ever draft of XFL players, which I think would be awesome. And you super nerds out there would totally love that. So without further ado, folks, and what's up to everybody in the chat? Who's in the chat right now? Jared's checking in. Appreciate Jared coming. We'll get to his stuff and your social media stuff as well. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. The XFL and Indoor Football League announced their partnership officially. So the XFL and Indoor Football League, IFL, announced a wide-ranging player personnel partnership. The partnership provides the framework for transferring players between leagues and the opportunity for players released from XFL teams to be transferred to IFL squads. The two leagues will also work together in scheduling joint tryouts and sharing video and game films. Quote, our partnership with the IFL is a win across the board, says Doug Whaley, XFL Senior Vice President of Player Personnel. Not only will the league have access to a consistent pool of highly competitive players who are in game shape, but it will also provide the opportunity for some of our players to continue their professional development and extend their professional careers. Also, we got another quote. We are extremely excited to be working with the XFL, said Todd Tryon, commissioner of the IFL. This partnership will allow a bigger opportunity for the players of the IFL. Our goal is to create a platform for our players to advance their careers on and off the field. This is another step towards that, close quote. That's basically the information we got from the XFL. This is important because this is another chance for players to kind of continue their career. We could see XFL players playing in the Indoor Football League, which then generates interest. At least for me personally, I was not really interested in the Indoor Football League before, but if I could see some of the guys that I really liked in the XFL play in the Indoor Football League, I'm going to definitely watch. The Indoor Football League is from March till July, which will be taking place kind of during the XFL season, but then when the XFL season wraps, these guys could potentially play in the Indoor Football League. So how this all works out is going to be real interesting. But this is another opportunity that the XFL is providing, whether it's the NFL Alumni Academy or partnering with the Indoor Football League, to give players a chance to continue to get game tape outside of the XFL world. XFL co-owner The Rock met with MLSC's Larry Tanenbaum in Toronto doing a Black Adam tour. So The Rock is currently on this whirlwind tour promoting the new Black Adam movie coming to theaters October 20th. According to his business partner and XFL chairwoman Danny Garcia, this project has been 6 years in the making. I've heard The Rock say that it's been 15 years in the making. So Dwayne Johnson started a tour in Mexico, then made his way into the U.S. this past week with appearances in New York. And then he stopped in Toronto during the Maple Leafs game, and we saw how that all went down.
Did he catch the flight? Is he here? Is he in the building? Dwayne Johnson is in the building. And he's a Leaf fan, baby. What's up, Toronto?
So, Canadian radio host Rod Peterson reports that The Rock was meeting with MLSE chairman Larry Tanenbaum while in Toronto. Now, with Johnson's busy movie promotion schedule, it was a bit eyebrow-raising, no pun intended, that he would make time to meet with Tanenbaum. He said, quote, "Two sources tell me The Rock is meeting with MLSE chairman Larry Tanenbaum while in Toronto." Interesting. So Tanenbaum, who is this guy? He's a longtime chairman of the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, MLSE, which owns the NHL's Toronto Maple Leafs, which is where The Rock was, the NBA's Toronto Raptors, the Toronto FC of the Major League Soccer. They also own the CFL's Toronto Argonauts. We all know about the XFL and CFL talks, which ended in July of 2021. Tanenbaum was rumored to be very high on the XFL-CFL partnership merger talks. In June, Tanenbaum talked about the CFL in an interview with the Globe and Mail. He said, quote, "The community-owned teams seem to be satisfied with what's happening in the CFL, so we're working to see how the Argos fit into that scenario. I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with the structure of the league," close quote. This turned some heads back over the summer. TSN football insider Dave Naylor talked about the interview. He said that Larry Tanenbaum's comments were aimed more at differing opinions about XFL option and joining forces with The Rock and Four Downs, North American football. Tanenbaum sees it one way, the league went in another direction. So this is Dave Naylor posting this. And then The Rock chimed in on Twitter saying, "Love the grammar citations, which we received many over the years. Quote, Larry was a great partner and advocate who I found to be gutsy visionary, who saw an amazing opportunity to grow the game of football that we all love in a very exciting and electrifying way for the fans," close quote. This is The Rock chiming in on Larry Tanenbaum stuff and the CFL stuff. That also turned heads. Now, Dwayne Johnson's appearance at the MLSE-owned Maple Leafs could be much ado about nothing, just a simple movie promotion and meeting with an old friend before heading off to London for the next part of his movie promotional tour. We know a major difference between the XFL 2.0 era and the 3.0 era is the relationships. The relationship between the XFL front office and NFL helped guide the XFL-NFL partnership. Danny Garcia's connection, of course, to the TV and movie business, Jerry Cardinale's relationship with the NFL and other pro sports leagues, you get the drift. So do Tanenbaum and Johnson have something cooking? We'll have to wait and see down the road. The XFL has currently announced a partnership with the IFL, but has yet to release its team names and logos. The Argos, of course, they are in the CFL playoff hunt, and Tanenbaum was recently unanimously reelected as the chairman of the NBA Board of Governors. And we never know. These friendships might not mean anything now, but they could later down the years. My take on all this is clearly this is an interesting thing because not only is Larry Tanenbaum got a lot of money, remember, a lot of people are like, oh, well, does this mean that the Toronto Argonauts are going to jump to the XFL? Not at all. I still don't. That would shock me, but nothing would surprise me if that were to ever happen. The other piece of the puzzle is that MLSE has money, and the XFL is looking for people with money to invest in the XFL. So maybe Larry's not as interested in doing anything with the Argos, but maybe he's and MLSE is interested in doing something with the XFL, and let's sell the Argos to whoever they want, and then maybe down the road do something with the XFL. So who knows what this was all about? It could just be maybe Larry Tanenbaum wants to have a part in the Rock's on Young Rock, for example, and he wants to get into acting. We don't know, but anytime somebody like The Rock meets with somebody, two people that were involved in those very long, very interesting CFL, XFL talks, when they meet together and talk in person, especially with The Rock's schedule, jumping from one promotional thing to the next, that they would make time for each other, whether it was an hour, 30 minutes. I mean, clearly they could talk on the phone. To me, that's an interesting thing just to kind of keep in the side pocket, that if down the road something happens between the MLSE and the XFL, we kind of know where we're headed. So just something to keep out there for the XFL super fans to just be in the loop. The Indoor Football League announces its 18-week schedule for the 2023 season. So the Indoor Football League is proud to announce the 2023 regular season schedule. 18-week, 105-game schedule kicks off Friday, March 17th and concludes on Saturday, July 15th. The season will feature 14 teams split evenly between the Eastern and Western conferences. The Western Conference will consist of the Arizona Rattlers, Bay Area Panthers, Duke City Gladiators, Northern Arizona Wranglers, San Diego Strike Force, Tuscan Sugar Skulls, and the Vegas Nighthawks. The Eastern Conference will feature the Frisco Fighters, Green Bay Blizzards, we talked about them, Iowa Barnstormers, of course, Kurt Warner, Massachusetts Pirates and Quad City Steamwheelers, and Sioux Falls Storm, and new expansion team for 2023, the Tulsa Oilers. Each IFL team will play a 15-game schedule over 18 weeks. 8 teams will qualify for the playoffs. The 2023 IFL postseason schedule will be released at a later date. The IFL's 15th season begins March 17th as the reigning Eastern Conference champion Quad City Steamwheelers host the Arizona Rattlers. Week 1 continues Sunday, March 19th, as the Frisco Fighters travel to face the Green Bay Blizzard. Tulsa will host their first ever IFL game on Saturday, April 15th, as they welcome the Quad City Steamwheelers. And of course, we have the schedule breakdown. All times are central. We have all of this information on XFL News Hub if you want to check out that. And Go IFL is the homepage for the Indoor Football League. Why does this matter? Well, because the IFL has now partnered with the XFL. So we could see IFL guys playing in the XFL. And then once the XFL season is completed, we could see guys in the IFL or in the XFL playing in the IFL once the XFL wraps up. All right, we'll take a commercial break and be right back with more stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we're here with Jawad Yatim. All right, here we go. The founder, co-owner, president, general manager, and director of corporate partnership sales for the Massachusetts Pirates of the Indoor Football League. Did I get all that right?
Yes, sir. Welcome to Arena Football, where you got your hands pretty much everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, it's been a busy journey, you know, since our first season in 2018. But you know, we made it work, and you know, we're just continuing to truck along and work hard and try and, you know, continue to build the brand of our organization and win another championship. That's certainly the goal here.
So I always like to ask my guests, so give us your superhero origin story. How did you get from a high school kid all the way to an owner and involved in the Indoor Football League?
Oh yeah, so I mean, my story isn't too crazy. So right before I started the team, I was playing arena football. I played in the IFL for a season, and then I played in China actually. When some of the AFL owners had put on a league out there, and then yeah, from there, and I'm not the only owner, by the way. It's me and my father, so it's 50-50, and there's no team that at the time there wasn't a team in New England. There still is no other teams in New England. We pretty much, own the region here. We're from the city that we play in. We got some good connections there. And then we just figured why not give it a shot. Ended up getting a pretty nice TV deal out here. Went down. We were initially in the NAL. With teams like Jacksonville, Orlando, Carolina, some of those teams. And, I sent in an application, went down to Jacksonville, got vetted out by the league, and, they approved us as ownership. And yeah, it was all pretty crazy from there. So we announced November 15th, and we ended up playing our first game April 7th. So it was a quick turnaround, but, it sometimes when you put yourselves in those tough situations, you learn to deal with, you learn to work under pressure. You learn to, work with, tight deadlines, and you just really, embrace the chaos and control it, and, move forward. But, we've been great so far, won a championship already, 11-win seasons out of 4 years. We're going on our, we'll win our 50th game this season. We've done some good things on the business end, and yeah, we're just continuing to grow.
So tell fans about the Indoor Football League, kind of its origins to where it is in now. I mean, you have people that watch our program, or fans that are involved and interested in the XFL. They know the XFL, they know the USFL, they kind of know the CFL, but now there's they kind of know fan control football, and now Indoor Football League. That's kind of been around for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, so the league is actually going into its 15th year, which is outside of the NFL, I'd say the longest running, consistently the longest running professional football organization in the United States. So, obviously you have Canada, but that's up there across the border. But yeah, I mean, it's made up of some really, solid, solid ownership groups, some solid markets, whether it's Phoenix, Arizona, Vegas had joined us, Tulsa came on this year, the Bay Area, Frisco down in Texas, you got us, Duke City, Green Bay has been around for a while. Obviously the Barnstormers, everybody knows about Kurt Warner. Sioux Falls, they're like the Patriots of this, this league, where they've just been so consistent, for a long time. And yeah, Duke City down in New Mexico, San Diego. You got some, I'm probably forgetting a couple, but you got some good organizations in the league, good ownership groups. Obviously the Arena Football League had folded back in 2019, I believe, and we've just really focused on, not necessarily being them or taking their spot, but holding, the trophy for the top arena football organization, or league in the country. So, we certainly own that. And we are the highest level of arena football in the country, no doubt about it. And that's, what we strive to be. And I know the league is working hard, and we're just continuing to grow and yeah, make some cool developments here.
So what's something that football fans that might not know about the Indoor Football League, as far as, I mean, clearly it's inside, it's kind of in the, you put a field on a hockey rink type, those are typically the stadiums, but like what's the rules like, or what's something that would jump out for fans to get excited about it?
So yeah, I mean, probably the first thing you'll notice obviously is the field dimensions. So goal line to goal line is 50 yards, and then you got about 8-yard end zones. Depending on your floor plan, some end zones are different sizes than others, but there's a minimum requirement for an end zone size in our league. But you also notice you got two receivers going in high motion. They're attacking the line of scrimmage, already, with a running head start. So obviously that puts a little pressure on the secondary there. But it's similar to Canada. They do that in Canada as well. You got 3 down linemen on each side. You got a quarterback and a running back, and you got 2 linebackers. Well, 2 linebackers lining up. You got a Mac, and then you got one, linebacker who is essentially a safety that plays in the box, and he can go wherever he wants, as opposed to the NAL, which you start with 2 linebackers in the box. Both of them can't, drop deeper than 6 yards. In the IFL, that one jack linebacker, so to speak, or however you may call it, he can go wherever he wants on the field, and that's really the difference between the 2 games. That's why if you see one game, you see a running back that's 300 pounds, and he's essentially a 4th lineman. That's because they don't really run the ball in that league. They gotta, you got more guys in the box. It takes away the run, so they really focus on the pass in those leagues. But now you got one less guy in the box. It really opens up the run game. And those are the small differences between the 2 leagues, but it actually makes a big difference. In our league, within a minute of each half, you can kick a deuce. So, you say you score a touchdown, it's under a minute in the game or in each half. And, the kicker on the kickoff can actually kick it through the uprights and, score 2 points for your ball club, obviously. So that's a cool little wrinkle that they added in this year. But yeah, outside of that, it's just football, it's 4 downs for a first down, 6 points for a touchdown, 15-minute quarters. You got running clocks, up inside, a minute of each half. And it's really just football at that point, and that's really it. So, the major differences you'll see are the high motion, and outside of the number of players on the field and the size of the field, it's just football, man. Wow. That's really it.
And then you said, so you got in with the Massachusetts Pirates. You've had some name players on your franchise. Didn't you have like Martavis Bryant on there, or was it you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a lot of guys come through here. Actually, if you're an XFL fan, the kid who scored the first points in 2020 was from our squad. He played for us in 2019. We had probably 40% of our roster, get drafted that year. I think a little more than that was in the draft pool. Even this year, you're going to see a lot of our guys getting drafted this year. I can already tell you that. I've signed Martavis Bryant before, Dexter McCluster. Garrett Harley hit the game-winning kick in the championship for us. He obviously holds, Super Bowl records. And then we've had Trey Jackson, Terrence Williams from the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Sam Montgomery, who was an All-American at LSU, was a 3rd-round pick. Marty Gilliard, who obviously had a great career at Cincinnati, was a 4th-round draft pick. Toby Johnson, who actually who played for the Guardians, actually was all USFL this past year. He was one of our draft picks back then. We've had a lot of ball players, a lot of good players come through here. And, it certainly coincides with our record and what we've been able to accomplish. You don't do those things without the players. The players are the ones that win the ball games, especially in this league where, schematically you can only do so much, so there is a larger emphasis on the players as opposed to the outdoor game. But in either game you play, the players are the ones that are winning the ball games for, obviously coaching comes into play, of course, but without good players, you're not really doing much. So, we've had some good ball players, but honestly, stay on the lookout for this upcoming draft. You're going to see a good amount of Pirates in there.
So tell us about the XFL, IFL partnership and how that all came about.
Yeah, so, I'd say I spoke to Todd about, a month ago, and he kind of filled me in on it. And, I'd say Todd really had obviously the largest influence from an IFL standpoint in terms of the partnership. I don't know too much about the back end of the deal, but he certainly, I believe, was at the forefront of the deal. And I'm sure he got a little bit of help from maybe some of the owners in the league, but Yeah, I really didn't know too much about it until about a month, before it happened, and then they made the announcement. So, but Todd, Todd's been doing a great job for us. He really works hard, just in terms of the league branding and partnerships for the league. And I know he's working on a streaming deal as well right now. So, and then actually this year too will be the first year that our gambling odds are really distributed across North America. And carried by a lot of the major, betting platforms in North America. So, that'll be a nice development for the league. But yeah, Todd's really just been working hard and just trying to grow the league as we all are trying to grow our own organizations. So yeah, I'd say Todd was certainly at the forefront of it, no doubt.
So how is this going to work out? Because your season is from when? To March till July, August?
Yep. So March, our first game is March 26th, from a Pirate standpoint. And then the last regular season game is July 15th. And then the championship game, I believe, is going to be August 5th in Las Vegas. So from a scheduling standpoint, at least if the IFL, if the XFL schedule is the same as it was in 2020, then, we'll be able to get some guys back, prior to the end of the season. So what we're doing now from a transactional standpoint, I mean, we'll be signing guys, guys that are in the pool or just, and actually we have the power now to submit people into the pool. So, the main thing is that they have to be on your active roster. But if someone's on your active roster and you feel like they deserve, to be in the draft, then you could, simply just submit their name. You'll fill out a form and send it to Todd, and he'll take care of it from there. So, but yeah, I mean, what we'll simply do is say I sign somebody, they get drafted, we'll place them on the exempt list, so we still own their IFL rights, but they don't count against your 25-man roster, and then from that point, once the season's over, or if they get released at any point, or they become, available, you can just activate them off the exempt list and they slide right back in and join your team again. So, or if the season concludes and they want to keep playing, you can just activate them and they'll be ready to go. So, the scheduling from an XFL standpoint makes more sense than the USFL. The USFL, it is more, is more, parallel to the time that we play. So it doesn't really give guys an opportunity to go from there to here. But, not every player is looking to do that, but the ones, that do, we certainly have a spot for them. And I believe, we're actually going to have a draft within the IFL for XFL players that want to play in our league, towards the end of their season, so that we can distribute some of their free agents kind of evenly and whatnot. So that'll be, pretty cool, because we don't have a draft ourselves, everything is just free agency.
Okay.
And, everything is really all contracts are 1-year deals. So it's, once that season ends, you got literally clean slate. You got to start from zero. So it'll be cool to have a draft. I think something I've always wanted to participate in, within this role. So yeah, it'll be a nice experience.
So what happens if somebody, let's say, your starting quarterback of the Pirates is just tearing it up during the season, because you guys start in March and the XFL is right after the Super Bowl. So you're right in the middle of the season and the XFL is like, hey, that guy from the Pirates is looking pretty good. We want him. How would that work? If they saw a player, they were like, he's tearing it up in the IFL, let's bring him up to the XFL. Could they just pull him and then the next week that guy is in the XFL, or is it more of he was drafted, it's only the guys at the beginning of the season?
Well, I know come March, I believe it's March 3rd, all IFL quarterbacks, I guess, are off limits to them.
Okay.
What I need clarification, well, since it's such a new partnership, what I need clarification is, and one thing, if all right, my starting quarterback, he's going out there, he's doing well. He has an opportunity to go to the XFL. I'm going to let him go. I want him to go. I wouldn't want to, keep him back from that opportunity. So, I certainly would want him to go. So I would check in with the league and just make sure it's okay. I'm sure, it wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, I would let him go personally. I just, that's what we're here for, is for guys to elevate and, take advantage of larger opportunities, whether it be more money or just more television exposure, and just a better opportunity to get to the
NFL. So I would let him go, but I believe as of the first week of March, IFL quarterbacks are off limits.
But running backs, wide receivers, all those other positions could move up to the XFL if for whatever reason they wanted them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So any other position works. But everybody knows how important your quarterback,
Right.
your quarterbacks are. So they kind of wanted to protect the IFL from that standpoint. But I'm sure it's up to the teams at the end of the day, and I would let my guy go. And the way we kind of do things here, we have 2 starting quarterbacks. We always make sure to have 2 starting caliber quarterbacks on our roster. Obviously for injury purposes or whatnot, guys getting picked up. But so we would be just as confident in the guy, behind our starter, and we would be all right.
So how did first you have kind of, fan controlled football, and then you have the USFL and now the XFL. You have all these other entities competing for players. So how has that kind of changed the dynamic for you guys, especially as an owner?
I mean, it's always been just so competitive. It's and to a point, it's just so chaotic. Especially our first year. I know in 2018, you would sign somebody, and they could still sign with the IFL, they could still sign with the AFL, they could go up to Canada, obviously the NFL. The AAF didn't really come into play until 2019, but yeah, it's just you sign a guy, but you don't really know if he's going to show up or if he's going to sign somewhere else. So, I mean, I've had numerous guys where I've signed and I'm excited about, and I'm thinking they're on the roster, and then the next thing you know, they get picked up by such and such, they sign to such and such, they get drafted to this league. And yeah, as long as they're moving up, it's not a problem. But if they're moving in a parallel direction, then yeah, it's pretty annoying. But I mean, there's not much you can do. I mean, so from an IFL standpoint, if a player signs with your organization and he signs with another arena team in a different league, then he's suspended from our season for the rest of the year. So, but not vice versa. If he were to sign with the NAL, we could still sign him and he would be all right. But he just can't leave to go to the NAL. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly not like the NFL where, you sign a guy, you draft a guy and he's showing up, unless he retires or something happens.
So what does the future look like for the IFL in the next 5 years look like? Now you have this partnership with the XFL going on, where now XFL fans would be super excited to watch an IFL draft of XFL players. Like where's the league going within the next 5 years?
I would say that it's just going to continue to grow from an organizational standpoint. I believe the league is just going to continue to add strong ownership groups. I would expect a nice streaming deal. I would expect the league's exposure to grow, and just I don't think it's going to be so much of a niche product anymore. I think it'll be a little more mainstream. You won't have you won't have people asking as much, where can I watch it? I think it's going to be more known where you can watch our games, where you can follow us. I just think the league is just going to continue to grow, and yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of good things going on within the league, and I'm really excited for the sports gambling aspect this upcoming season, just because it's obviously such a large, aspect to, the sports nowadays. When you just turn on your TV, you'll see commercial after commercial after commercial, about it, and it's such a big part of the sports world now, and just to have our league adding that aspect of the entertainment industry, so to speak, is awesome. I think it's going to really help grow the league and the organizations. But yeah, I mean, I would expect exponential growth, progressive pattern of growth, and yeah, so it should be in a good place.
Now are you saying like, so before you couldn't like do DraftKings or FanDuel with Indoor Football League, but now you might be able to do that in this season?
Yeah. So our lines have been out there like scarcely, like it might be out there for, I believe the championship was really the first game that you could really wager on, but I had, our lines had been out there, previously, um, you know, between some of these smaller, platforms here and there, but the league partnered up with US Integrity, which is really helping facilitate, the process of having our lines distributed across the country. So yeah, I mean, last season, if you went on DraftKings or FanDuel or, you know, Caesar Sportsbook or BetMGM or whatever, you wouldn't see, any IFL lines or anything like that. So, just seeing our names on those platforms itself is good marketing, and then someone is 80% more likely to watch the game if they place a wager on it. So, just from a demand standpoint, it's certainly going to help. On top of the other things we're doing as a league, but that's certainly, I think, the biggest development we've had as a league so far this offseason.
Mm. And then my final question is, of course, and you kind of brought it up, fans will ask, how can I watch the IFL? How can I support the league? And how do the teams engage with the fans?
Absolutely. So all our games are live streamed on YouTube. So honestly, if you just go to YouTube, you can literally watch all the games right there. There's it has a history of all our games too. So if you wanted to go back and watch some old games here and there, you could certainly do that. And then almost every team has a regional, sports network partner. So for us, we're partnered with Nesson. They're the official broadcast home of the Boston Red Sox, Boston Bruins. So if you wanted to catch us on television as well, you can catch us on Nesson out here in New England. But every team, or mostly every team, has their own deals. So, from a visibility standpoint, either YouTube or your local regional sports network. And then, yeah, you could always go to goifl.com for more information and just, to keep up to date on the teams and everything like that. And then all our social media handles. So, yeah, it's like I said, we're continuing to grow. We're in a good spot, and we're looking forward to, the upcoming season.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I've officially announced that my team is now the Massachusetts Pirates. I'm encouraging all the XFL fans to kind of pick their IFL team. So I appreciate you coming on the show, and thanks so much.
No, I
we'll be following.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate you for having me, and make sure to catch, a bunch of Pirates in the XFL this upcoming season. That's what we're looking forward to. So, we can't wait. And thank you again for having me. I certainly appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, man.
All right, my friends, we are back. We appreciate Jawad Yatim for coming on the show, talking about the IFL, the Pirates, the history behind the league, what's coming from this. I am intrigued. Are you not intrigued by this XFL draft thing? I mean, just that alone would generate a lot of interest from super nerd XFL fans like us. So we appreciate him coming on the program. What's up to everybody in the chat? Want to know in the chat room, who is your IFL team? We need to know your IFL team. We'll get into that. Also, as always, we always like to start our conversation when we hit the social media, talk about our donation. So every week, XFL Week in Review likes to donate to another cause. This one was a cause that my family and I took part of this past weekend. It is coming up. It is the AFSP. So if you don't know who they are a suicide prevention group. They're actually the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And we took part in their walk this past week just to raise awareness. And it's very sad situation out there. Suicide is a very high very prevalent, especially you go and post what, you have a lot of military guys coming back from overseas having issues. So if definitely if you're in crisis, you need somebody to call. They actually have a number now. It's called 988. So, you do like 911 for like your, 988 is if you need to talk somebody, it's kind of like direct you to the crisis hotline for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And let me tell you, there's a lot of, this is a good organization. I mean, it touches every aspect. I mean, they kind of had people from all different kinds of aspects. And we know that, just being on social media, you see how many angry and broken people there are out there. Clearly there's could be something else going on in their lives more than just what we see when people are getting all fired up about stuff on social media. So just an organization to keep in mind. We'll be donating to them. You guys can too. And there's a link in the show notes for that. On to our XFL Weekend Review Fantasy Football League. Well, didn't do that good this week. Losing to Slob on my Cobb. Getting crushed by Slob on my Cobb, I might add. Not a good week for me. Where's my team? Where's my team? I want to look at my team instead of Slob on my Cobb's team. Here we go. Yeah, not a good week. And I think I put all the best players that I could. I had Kyler Murray. He had 100 rushing yards, but still 15 points. I got Williams going right now and Cortland Sutton going right now. Left Logan Thomas in there. Forgot to take him out. Alvin Kamara, 18 points. Suck up in New Orleans defense. So there's really nothing I could do. He had Matthew Stafford, didn't do well. Diggs did great. He's got Diggs and Jamar Chase. I mean, come on. Right there at the top is 62 points. So, and David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Taysom Hill didn't do anything, 4 points. So he's got a great team there. So couldn't surprised that he's 1-4 with Jamar Chase and Stephon Diggs. But there you have it, the fantasy football stuff. Let's get to the chat room. Our friends in chat. Jared says, which was The Rock's biggest and best movie you have seen from him? I think The Rock's biggest movie is probably, I would say, The Jungle Book. Or not The Jungle Book. What's the one with Kevin Hart? The name escapes. Jumanji. That's my guess. Or the Fast and the Furious ones that he's been in. That would be my guess for his biggest movies. Rudy says XFL tailgating group in San Antonio, Texas. All right, cool. Apparently promoting that. Jared says Martez Carter, formerly of the LA Wildcats running back. Remember the guy that did the backflip? He played in Massachusetts Pirates. And XFL coach went to Pirates too after 2020. Todd Tryon, who is the IFL commissioner, now was the president of the Sioux Falls Storm before that. Eric says, will there be a team in Oakland, California for the IFL? Or I assume you're talking about the XFL. No, not right now. Or maybe he is. Jared says, I think Bay Area Panthers. Ron says, Nashville Cats are Arena Football League. I played AFL video game long time ago. Well, that would be cool if they had a video game. Could you imagine them? I mean, that's what you do. You put these leagues together and have them partner with some other, to be able to partner all these leagues into one, though. I don't know how they would do that. Question of the week. Since the XFL is partnered with the IFL, this is all sorts of not straight. Put that. So that the XFL is partnered with the IFL. Who is your IFL team and why? Post it in the comments. We got a lot of reaction to this. Erico says Green Bay Blizzards, go Pack go. Jarrett says SF Storm, have always watched them as they're 2.5 hours away. Fun fact, they were originally going to the Sioux Falls Smash in 1999 when they came into existence, but before 2000, they became the Sioux Falls Cobras for 1 year before switching to the Storm, one of the most dominant arena football teams there is. We're not arena football. Brett says, I don't have one. Well, then pick one. Ryan says the The Northern Arizona Wranglers are his team. What is with the Facebook is off. I'm just going to fix it right during the show because I don't know what's going on there. About the XFL draft coming in the 2-day event, September 9th or 16th and 17th. David says, yet they still haven't announced names and uniforms. I agree, man. They still haven't announced that. They haven't announced anything officially. About the Neil Stratton Inside the League, talking about the draft being held on the 16th or 16th and 17th. Demaria says, why is the XFL management and ownership team of The Rock, Danny Garcia, and Redbird Capital so hesitant and afraid of actually publicizing the existence and the upcoming activities regarding a very American pro football league that they own and are operating here in the United States? And why have they constantly done this over the past 2 years since purchasing the XFL in August of 2020 as well? We're about to find out. We are about to find out. I'm not really sure the hesitancy of making announcements, but everything is happening behind the scenes. I can tell you that for sure. I just think Hurricane Ian kind of screwed up their timeline. I think things are going to start to happen the beginning of November after the World Series. But I hope I'm wrong. About PJ Walker, who did not play that great, got knocked out of the game. Bruce says, hope he's an upgrade from Faker Mayfield. I've never heard Faker Mayfield before. Dustin says, upgrade PJ, better give him credit for, I'm putting my money for him to win. It all good QB, so he didn't play that great. And I believe that they lost as well. Traded their wide receiver. Also, Robbie Anderson gets dealt right after the game, pretty much. That happened today. On the Instagram, talking about team names, or team IFL teams. Mike says Panthers due to unfortunate folding of Spokane. Great job with the map. That wasn't me. I got that from their website. Carpage_panic says Barnstormers best helmet in football. Shady Sports Network, the Frisco Fighters, thanks to TJ Edwards. Jorge 13 Miguel says San Diego Strike Force and Bay Area Panthers. Both cities, San Diego and San Jose, Oakland, need a football team. And the FA Cal football, always been a fan of Blizzard logo, but Rattlers are OGs, and I like that. So there you go. And _66 says Frisco Fighters. Just to give you an idea of some of the teams out there. Let's go to the YouTube. From last week's show, Van says, wow, excellent interview with Mr. Dalton. A thorough look behind the XFL player development program. A must-watch for XFL fans. Thank you, Van. Appreciate that. Isaiah says, awesome job, Mr. Perry. Side note, did you enjoy the USFL? Hashtag XFL News Hub. Well, thank you very much for the kind words, gentlemen, for the interview. We'll have more kind of interviews like that, including, just our IFL interview that we had right here, which I just like to get these guys on and give you ask the questions that the super fans want to know and kind of get a better understanding what's going on with the league. Us super fans are all wanting to know what's going on. I'm not sure about anybody else, but that's what this all is all about, is a program for the super fan. That's how we do things. On to the Twitters, one of the darkest places in the interwebs, which makes me laugh. Right? Did I get Twitter right? Yes. So Max sent this one over. This is found this XFL San Antonio post on LinkedIn, talking about a couple different things. So Richard Oliver, who is the communications manager at the City of San Antonio Convention Center, posted this little interesting tidbit, which then was backed up by the XFL itself. The San Antonio XFL franchise, which begins play next spring, took the next step in its preparation today when head coach Hines Ward and his newly named staff met with the Alamo Dome team. And then says in the coming days that the ball club's new name, brand, and uniforms will be unveiled. Again, that could mean lots of things. That could be the end of the month. It could be 30 days from now. But it was really cool where that the XFL is doing things. So the San Antonio franchise came in, met with people from the Alamo Dome. I think that was really interesting. The XFL then posted a tweet, "Home sweet home, the Alamo Dome." They got Hines Ward and the staff spent time this week in San Antonio getting to know the Alamo Dome, talking strategy for 2023. I think one of the personnel folks talked about that it was kind of a retreat or something like that, referred to it as a retreat for the coaches and staff to kind of get together, get talking about the Alamo Dome, and get talking about XFL stuff. So they were meeting there. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And let's see, everybody just basically talk about where's the name is kind of their beef on that. And of course, our question of the week, which XFL, partnered with the IFL. Which teams do you want? This guy posts the same thing. Jeff says Quad City Steamwheelers. If the XFL 2023 teams get affiliated with some IFL teams, the Battlehawks' closest team in the area would be the Steamwheelers. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. And of course, you heard from our interview that it's not going to be anything like a minor league system that you have in the NFL. But it's just more of, player transfer kind of thing, just providing players with an opportunity to play football. So that's it for this week's show. We're still working on some good guests in the future. I'm excited to bring on to talk more, try to get that inside look. Remember, we got things coming up next week. The XFL draft is a month away. I think the news is going to come hot and heavy in November. That's my guess. Let me know in the chat what you think. What's your guess as far as when things are going? But that's my guess. That's my guess, and I'm sticking to it. Let's see. Last thing with the chat. Ron says Nashville Cats. Let's see. He says Iowa Barnstormers were my favorite team in the IFL. They're talking about a different theme. Bobby says the day the CFL merges with any American league will be the day I stop watching that league. They're not going to merge with the XFL and CFL are their own entities. They're not going to merge. That's my take on that. They're not going to merge. The thing with The Rock and Tanenbaum, I just found interesting because, there's definitely multiple angles. It could just be two guys getting together. It could be two guys talking about the Argos jumping ship. Clearly, he's not happy with what's going on with the CFL. The fact that he pull a team and move it to another one, I think that would just be. I have no idea about that. And then MLSC's got money. Maybe they want to invest in the XFL, and that's something that they've talked about. Or maybe they talk about Terramana Tequila, or the Black Adam movie, or like I said, maybe Larry Tanenbaum wants to get a part on the Young Rock. Who knows? But I will tell you this. So this is something that we also need to keep in mind, our XFL fans, and the purpose of the XFL. It really kind of jumped out to me. Did you hear about the NFL and the trying to open up a league or a division? That Roger Goodell was very specific, talking about a division in Europe. And then why is that important? It has to correlate with and partly to the XFL, because that if they're going to expand 4 teams in one shot, because he said, kind of like how the XFL is planning their hub season or hub league, we're having 3 teams in Texas to kind of cut down the travel costs. If the NFL is going to have 4 teams, not one, 4, and basically jump to an expansion and add 4 teams, it's going to have to be 4 teams in one shot. Those teams are going to need players, and college football rookies aren't going to be enough. And having a system like you have the NFL Alumni Academy training up guys, you have the XFL training up guys, and I'm not saying this is going to happen anytime soon, but if the XFL can sustain itself for the next couple years, and then the USFL can sustain itself, you've got IFL, you've got you've got fan control football, all of these leagues kind of happening in the springtime, keeping these players, and the CFL keeping these players and training these players and getting good coaching and all that kind of stuff, that could feed the XFL's machine, the NFL's machine to go to Europe, because they are making tons of money right now in the United States of America alone. Imagine how else are they going to expand and grow the game? They have to go outside of the United States. And to do a thing in Europe, they're going to need 4 teams. And in order to have 4 teams, you need players. Where are you going to get the players from? You're just going to pull from college, or you're going to pull from the XFL. Now, if the NFL adds 4 teams, that could decimate leagues like the XFL and USFL as far as players, and the CFL. I mean, that is a lot of players to fill those rosters. That would basically wipe out the XFL as far as total players if the NFL were to add some teams. But if they need somewhere to pull them from, that makes then the ELF too. Can't forget about them. That's something to keep in mind in the back of your head. Just like the Larry Tanenbaum thing, it's not that big of a deal. It was just an interesting thing Rod Peterson put out there. I thought it was interesting. And when I say, that's kind of interesting, that's when I write an article about it. And that's how this is how XFL News Hub works, giving the super fans every kind of angle about things that are going on in the XFL. So Tanenbaum, could there be a thing? Could it be nothing? Could it be something with a potential ownership of the XFL? Could it be the Argos? Could it be Teremana Tequila? The NFL partnered with the XFL. They didn't do it in 2020. Why are they doing it now? I always thought it was because of the Rocks and being able to get interest from that younger fan base to pull interest in the NFL. Now I'm thinking otherwise. If they want to expand into Europe and have a division in Europe, they're going to need players, and that's where the XFL and the partnership comes in. Let the XFL test things out. Let the XFL bring up players. And, so 3 years from now, maybe guys make the jump to the NFL. And the other last thing I want to point out was in our interview with not only Dean Dalton, but IFL, Jawad, Yatim, both said that they like the XFL schedule. Did you notice that both of them said the same thing versus the USFL's schedule as far as when it happens and how that's more conducive to them than the USFL? Both guys said that, which I also found kind of interesting as well. All right, my friends, that's it for this week's show. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts, MP3s. Also, make sure you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Watch the show live every Monday. And that's it for me, folks. All right? Getting you the XFL information for the superfan. That is our motto. That's what we do. And if you get upset about that, you people on social media, then I don't know what to tell you. But relax. It's sports. It's supposed to be fun. It's not that serious. All right, my friends, that's it for me, folks. God bless, as always. Always praying for you guys out there. Appreciate it. Hey, everybody, Jared, Ron, Isaiah, who else is on? Bobby, Stock Speed Tech, Rudy on Facebook. Appreciate all you guys checking in. Enjoy Monday Night Football, and we will see you all later. God bless.